Um, Thanks everyone for joining. Lynn and I were talking about other things, including the VSOF conference that we're planning that is most likely to be in June, this next June. And we will be, we're still planning it, and we will be letting people know about it very soon. And then I realized with your prompting that this meeting was coming up. And with your help, Lynn, we came up with an agenda of that it's the third anniversary, September 21st, of Violet's passing. And it, I was actually in Santa Barbara walking on State Street, which is where I actually met Violet that day when we heard about it, heard the news. So that's the first part of this meeting, is to commemorate her life and contributions, and some memories. And then the second part is, again, thanks to Lynn about this. And here in the United States, not every state, but many states, there is a move to ban cell phones from classrooms to facilitate learning. And it just so happens that Max Greenberg is at a school as a school counselor at a school where they are piloting this idea. And so you have generously, kindly agreed to present what it's been like and the rationale for it. It might seem like common sense, but it's also good to know what the reasoning is. So it should be another great gathering for us. So what I wanted to start with, since we have you, Martha Mahatma, is anything you want to say. And then I think you are going to go on with your day. But I just wanted, so before you start, I just wanted to give two memories of mine that include the two of you, and allow me to express my gratitude. And that the one memory is after Sue and I had been seeing Violet for supervision for a number of years, and I didn't have a chance this morning to look up when she presented at the Skirball. Martha, I don't know if you remember, but I saw she was doing a keynote there. The Skirball is in a space where conferences are held here in Los Angeles. And so I signed up, and I didn't tell Violet I was going to be there. I just thought, oh, this is great. I get to see her present after seeing her for supervision for a few years. It wasn't that long into our time together. And so I sat in the front row, and Violet saw me there, and she was surprised to see me. And she said in front of everyone, oh, it was so long ago. I was Karen Hillman. Karen Hillman is here. And that was like one of the amazing moments, is to get a shout out from Violet Oaklander. And I knew about her international reputation, and this was just such a reminder because everyone was there for her, and there were two other speakers. And Martha, is Martha listening?
She is not.
Oh,
She
she's
had
not?
something
Okay.
else.
So no problem. So Martha was there to help Violet, because what happened after Violet's keynote is there were breakout sessions, and everyone went to Violet's session. I felt so bad for the other speakers who actually were great, but they weren't Violet. So they had the room planned for a third of the group. It was probably over 300 people. Everyone crammed into Violet's breakout presentation. And Madeline, your daughter, Mahatma, and Martha were helping Violet, and they asked for my help because literally they had brought crayons and paper to do a drawing experience. So we were ripping paper in half, and breaking crayons in half so that we could get the maximum number of people that could actually present. So it was just an example of how Martha has always been there. And then we're here at number whatever it is, 30 something. I had this idea, right? This just for now idea, but we're really here because everyone who's here and others who have joined got the chance to meet Violet. And the people who made that possible while she was in her 90s, Mahatma is you and Martha. So I learned how to use Zoom, and planned some presentations and invited people to present. But really, you made it possible for Violet to be here, and that's really, I would say, why we're still meeting. So I just want to thank you as we're talking about Violet. And I turn it over to you to say whatever you would like about your mom.
Well, yeah, almost the third anniversary of her leaving. Um, the first thing I'm present to is that Karen starting just for now and allowing her to be connected to all of you and to people around the world when she was in a place where otherwise she was isolated. And it was so amazingly wonderful. And she was able to do presentations sitting in front of the computer in our house. And when we did the first online um, round the world conference in 2021, was it in 2021?
Yeah.
That was only a few months before she died, and she was able to be part of that. And even about a week or two before she died, she was able to be part of the VSOF meeting that happened earlier in the month of September, probably exactly 3 years ago from today. So that was really a transformational experience for her in her last year and or two of life to be able to do that and to connect with everybody and to, she was, as we all tend to do towards the end of our lives, kind of shrinking a little bit, being isolated more, the limitations of her body mostly, and to be able to step back into her role as Violet Oaklander and to really be able to still share her insights, wisdom, and experience right up till near the end of her time was really awesome and remarkable and a testament to Karen and everybody else who participated. The other thing I was thinking about was when my mom first moved into the illegal ADU we built in our backyard in 2008, which is now grandfathered. um, in those few years, the first 2 years she was here, I did a series of interviews with her that I recorded on my phone that ranged from a few minutes to almost an hour or more. And some of them were about personal things in her life, her memories of her growing up, her grandparents, her parents, her siblings, her kids. Some of them were about the development of her work. And I still have all those on my computer. I haven't done anything with them or even listened to them for years. But I was listening to a podcast of this woman who was completing a 500-page book, and she said, I think best when I'm moving, so I've written my entire book by dictating it to my phone. And I'm thinking, it must be relatively simple now with today's technology that I could just transcribe all of that and see what we do with it. So I was thinking about that and just about how my mom Violet was, there's something a gift that she had, an intuitive gift that was always there, allowing her to connect to people and to children. And she never set out on purpose to become a therapist even, and certainly not write 2 books and be world renowned as she became, but simply she had an unstoppable drive that she had to do things and she had to write that book. She just had to do it. She was possessed for 5 years writing windows to our children and through some desperate and impoverished times because she just had to. And then she just was sucked into starting to teach what she knew or what she developed and travel, and things unfolded. So it's interesting to contemplate that. So those are my thoughts.
Hmm, thank you. I'm going to open it up to others of you who would like to share any thoughts. Sue's raising her hand that you have about remembering Violet. So, Sue.
Oh, there's so many things that I could say about Violet. I mean, Violet was a rock star, and I don't think she ever really knew that or embraced that, or she definitely didn't act like one. She was just the most authentic, real human being I think I've ever had the honor of connecting with. And I just she had the best sense of humor too. I loved her sense of humor. She, we a memory that comes up for me is standing with her in the booth at the Evolution of Psychotherapy conference, one of them where she was a keynote speaker, and we were just hanging out in the booth for the foundation booth, and a woman from Russia came up to her, and she was a psychiatrist from Moscow. And she said to Violet, you know, we love your books, we love you, we want you to come to a workshop, we'll have you come and come to Moscow. And she said, oh, I'm not going there, I'm too old. And she looked at me and she said, but she'll go. And I I was like, okay. And I seriously didn't think that would go anywhere, but I thought, all right, sure, fine, I'll go to Moscow. And sure enough, I ended up going 5 times to teach there. And just it was just the most wonderful experience. And that was just one little bit of how she was. She was so organic and so available and just open to to anything and everything. And I just I she was my friend, my mentor, my rock. And Karen and I have both had the honor of being with her for many, many years and many, many supervisions. And I was trying to count how many sand trays we did with Violet.
A
And I
lot,
think
a lot.
it's over 200, you know, we that we would do side by side. Karen and I would sit with our sand trays and Violet would sit between us, and we would each process our sand tray with her. And I I just treasure those moments, those experiences with her and with Karen. And you know, it evolved from just supervision to always going to lunch afterwards, and then sometimes going shopping. And it just was she it was such a wonderful experience to know her. And because she was so organic and in the moment, I felt like, okay, we need to get organized and get something going to get keep her work going, and keep her knowing how many people out there just loved her and wanted to learn from her. And the foundation came out of that. And that to me has just been such a blessing, and so grateful for all the wonderful people. None of us knew each other before we started this foundation, and it was only through all of us knowing Violet that we first got together. And then now here we all are, and we're we're continuing. And I'm so grateful in so many ways. So that's what I wanted to remember right now.
Thanks, Sue. And you're also Max's mom. When Max helps me with the trainings, I say, oh, and when I was in supervision with Violet for all these years with Max's mom, Sue. So your legacy really lives on. Really.
I give you Max.
Well, all of it from you is a gift. All of it.
Thank you.
Okay. Who's next? Laura.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you. Just want to say thank you for meeting her. I was studying at the university with a copy of the book, not the book, the copy. We didn't have access to the book. So I learned all the theory and all this love from a copy, and how can you describe the feeling that this just for now meeting for the first time in my life, to meet her, to be there with her. It was such a great experience for me, and to know that she was there for us to guide us every week. I think it was weekly or monthly. I don't know. I don't remember, but exactly what combination she was of and kindness and love, and also the presence, the friendship, the close, the warm person she was. So I didn't met her in person, but I am so grateful for the opportunity to meet her through just for now. Thank you. That's the thing that I remember about her.
Thanks, Laura. So I know there are, John. I know there's ones like John who had something to say, and you have a lot to say from after knowing Violet for many years.
Does anybody remember this? Before the internet, Violet used to do long distance supervision over the phone with my friend Hilda, who was the person who got me into the Oaklander model initially. And Violet, like Hilda, and then me, really had an activist side that was wanting to do things for disadvantaged children. And so Hilda and I started an after school project in a very disadvantaged area. And Violet was the person who kind of gave us supervision long distance. But her ideas were avant-garde in some ways for this old-fashioned country that I'm in here. And Martha would remember this, that she was invited to come all the way from the States to to be the keynote at a conference here in England, I think around 1989. And they only asked her to do a 20-minute presentation. And she was angry, and we all were, because they could have at least given her, a workshop or two there, having made that big effort. So I'm really aware with sometimes she went against the grain, she put herself out there, and she just had to keep pushing to try and get some of her ideas across. Mahatma used the word possessed, but there was something about her energy that strikes me. Because when I met Violet for the training, I remember after the first week that she went at a time when most other people would be thinking they want to lay on their bed and recover after a week's training. She asked Peter and I to go hiking with her up some trail and then swimming in the creek. And it's like there was this 70-plus woman who was leading us. She was way out in front and we were trying to keep up with her. And so you really got a sense of her, huge energy for that. And just one other thing, really, and the sad thing was saying goodbye to Violet in the nursing home when she was there with Shayna, the cat who came after Maidala. And I said to her, "You've been a good mom. You've been a good mama to me," because my own mother was kind of quite changeable and not very reliable. And in a way, I think when I found the Oaklander model and Violet, I got something of her her love, her expressiveness, her tolerance, and her openness. And that really, you know, it's kind of stuck with me on many levels. And so I remember her with gratitude, as I imagine those of us, all of us who met her, she touched so many of our hearts. So thank you, Violet. And thank you, Martha and Mahatma, also.
Thanks, John. Marab, your hand is up.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm calling from Kenya, Africa. And thank you very much, Karen, for this meeting. Actually, I was looking forward to it. I even came in yesterday instead of of today. And then I had challenges getting in. I started getting in and it took me time. But the first time I met Violet was when I was learning about in counseling about therapy, and that's the first time I met her. I saw her name, and then the last time I met her, I was in the last Just for Now call. I think that's where Florence was too, and just watching Violet and how she was trying to get us to learn some of the things that she had been doing. I think that was an amazing thing to be able to see. I think for us here in Africa, being able to meet the pioneers of some of these models is something we cherish. And I think just seeing Violet alive on Zoom, that last call, and I remember I was just thinking, oh, what a powerful grandma she is. She's able to, she was having challenges even during that last session, but she took it in her stride. And like John has said, very open and very free with herself. She didn't mind to say, oh, I need help or I need support in this particular time. So that's the little I remember of her. I wish I had met her personally, but even this meeting her online, I think that is still a great thing. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thanks, Marab. Julia.
Hi. I have a couple of photos which I don't know whether can you see. I was so much younger then when I met Violet. And we'd completed an exercise, and you know, it was a drawing, and I was feeling really good at the time. So I kind of treasure this photo. And then there's another one that I wanted to share, which was at the end of the training. Can you see it okay?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I,
great.
I had a party in my room, and Violet bought a guitar, or someone bought a guitar, and it was an amazing evening of singing and dancing and sharing food, and it was just a wonderful time. And I can resonate with what John has said. I had a good mother, but there was something about Violet that was so motherly. I kind of felt she was a bit of my mother too, somehow. That earthiness, that she was so grounded and so caring and generous and kind and so easy to connect with. So I just kind of wanted to share that as my memory.
Thanks, Julia. And those pictures are treasures.
Yes.
Here's that guitar, Julia. Same way.
Oh yes,
Look
it's
at
in
that.
the photo.
Oh my
Yes,
God. Let me get a picture, Mahatma, of the
so
guitar,
wonderful.
because this is one of those moments here. Will you hold that up again? This is one of those great moments that happens on these calls. Thank you. Oh,
Wonderful.
that's great. Thank you.
Karen, I'll share a picture too, if you don't mind.
Not a bit.
So I'm going to share a picture of Violet in her workshop mode, sitting on the floor. And my favorite part about what she said there is at the bottom, fantasy gives us an access to our own real experience. And I just want to share a quote that a student of mine shared with me. I just retired from Lewis and Clark, and gratefully I got this message. She said, after taking the class that I taught on Violet's work called Play Becomes Real, the student said, I am also so thankful for the practice of embracing play. When my 9-year-old handed me a toy doll and told me, you're the mom, I thought I would panic, but I didn't. It felt easy or easy enough to relax into the play mode and meet her where she was at. I was able to embrace puppets and silly voices and things that I am not sure my anxiety, self-consciousness would have let me do 2 years ago. I have been able to be imaginative in ways that I would have said were too far outside of my comfort zone. And that has been so cool to experience and witness the impact of. So I just want to honor what Violet brought to me, and I think to so many of us, which is this, we do this very serious work of engaging with people at difficult times in their life. And yet we bring that face and that energy to the work. And paradoxically, something really positive and magical happens when we're able to play. So thank you, Violet, for that.
Thanks, Peter.
My experience with Violet is just so treasured, and so much a part of who I am today. I met Violet many, many years ago, probably 45 years ago, when I was working at a family crisis center, and she was volunteering in Hermosa Beach. And I walked into this group supervision that she was doing, and had no idea who she was, and had no idea that she would have this tremendous impact on my life over, so many years. I think one of the things that I really like so much and loved about Violet was people have talked about how unassuming she was. And, part of that for me, I remember when she was doing the trainings in Santa Barbara, one of my favorite stories or little vignettes of Violet was that as the people were beginning to congregate in Santa Barbara for her weekend training, her intensive training, oftentimes Violet would come in with kind of like a handkerchief over her hair and kind of funky clothes, and actually vacuum the room and straighten up the room and straighten up the chairs. So a lot of the participants thought that she was one of the maid staff from the hotel. And she got a great kick out of that because she could overhear people talking about, Violet Oaklander, who is she and what is this going to be like? And she had a great sense of humor. One of the things people have talked about, a couple people, and John mentioned, and this idea about what kind of mother she was almost. And I know for me, that was also a really important piece because there was something about Violet that when I was with Violet, I felt like the most special person in the world. But then most people who are with Violet have that same feeling. And her love was just so unconditional. My other favorite memories of Violet through the years is when she moved back from Santa Barbara to Los Angeles, where Mahatma and Martha had built their wonderful little home for her. It was a hard transition for her. And so she and I would have these adventures of going to lunch. And I would do all the reviews of the kind of the most up and coming new restaurants in LA for lunch. And she would just completely be on board and love those little adventures. And even within that, one of the things I really respected about Violet is that she took no guff at all. She also had a very strong presence. And she used to tell me that, in our culture, older women are not valued. So both of us would go out to lunch. And, even later when going out to lunch meant getting a wheelchair in the car and quite a bit of practical maneuvering. Invariably, the waitress would come or the waiter would come and sort of ask me what my quote, I think they thought she was my mother at sometimes, what she would like to eat. And Violet would very sternly kind of look over and say, I am right here. So she kind of made her presence very known. But there's just so much of my own history that's tied to Violet, and I loved her so much. And I think it really has something to do about sort of what the nature of love is that she really taught me so much about. And so I just have tremendous memories of Violet.
Thank you, Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Christiane, and then Alessandra.
So I also, like Patrick, I don't know where to begin. I met Violet right after she finished writing Windows to Our Children. So I didn't see those 5 years. But what I saw after was her dedication as she began to being called to travel. And she was traveling all over the United States and all over the world, beginning with Ireland and Germany. And this really was consuming her life. And she completely dedicated to it. She also was writing articles. So, I would go and visit her. We were working together in the Center for Child and Adolescent Therapy in Hermosa Beach, where Patrick was. I was working under her direction, learning from her. And she was writing articles. She began making the tapes at the encouragement of her brother. This was a time, not only were older women not acknowledged or kind of pushed aside, but she was working at a time when women in any field were pushed on the fringe. And it was not easy for her. She did not initially get the recognition locally that she did internationally. I've been listening to Barbara Streisand's memoirs, and she talks a lot about those times in the 70s and 80s and what it was like for her as a woman in her field. And she was 10 years younger than Violet. So this is, just watching Violet's work and her dedication and seeing what one person can do to impact the world, that what one person's dedication the impact one person's dedication can have. That now today I sit here with all of you around the globe, Nepal, South America, Europe, Sri Lanka. I don't know if Seema's here today or not. Africa, Asia. This impact that she has had is tremendous, and I trust will continue to grow and impact the world continually in such a positive way. So I feel very privileged to have had all of the time that I've had with her. There's so much more I can say, but I'm going to stop there.
Well, thanks for being here and thanks for sharing. Alessandra?
Yes, I hope to be able to express myself I got to know Violet Oclander through Gian Domenico Bagatin when I was studying in Italy. And I was already feeling this loving presence, mother loving presence of Violet through the teaching of Gian Domenico. So, and then I asked to Gian Domenico, I got to know about Just for Now. And I asked to Gian Domenico, if it's possible, could can I have the possibility to be in Just for Now? And he told me, of course, Alessandra, you can. And then I had this wonderful, unique honor to got to know Violet online with you. And in this moment, this loving presence that I felt through Gian Domenico was more real. And then I got to know directly as well Karen, the last, when you went to Italy in Trieste. And then this loving presence from Violet was coming again. And I just wanted to know that I'm feeling that Violet is always in this net now with us. And I'm quite emotional now because as all of you said, she changed my life, and she will always be in this changing. And I thank all of you for this possibility to be together. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And nice to see you. Okay. Anyone else? Kasiana?
Hello. Karen, can I share my screen? Is
Yeah.
it possible?
Yeah, totally possible.
Can I actually show 5 pictures instead of 1? Very quickly?
I think we can allow that.
Okay. Just a second. Let me see if I hold on. Well, the pictures I want to share with you is pictures from well, sorry, I did something very bad here and I missed. I think that I can fix it up and show later.
Okay.
But I just want to tell you a story that I have in my garden many plants that friends of mine come and hear and give to me. And just October 1st in 2021, I planted here a tree. This tree is Violet's tree. And every time that I open my bedroom window here, it's this tree that I look first. And I'm aware of how grateful I am for this meeting, for being the privilege to know Violet, to be with her, to meet her. And I'm also aware of all the love that I feel, and well, it's here's Violet's tree. Thank you. So it's really big now. It's this size. It's about this size, but it was like this when I planted 3 years ago. And you see, it's always like this. It's always full of flowers and life. And I look at this and I just, I think that everything I am in my professional life and my personal life, I can't divide those two. For me, it's just one thing. And I start my days with this wonderful feeling of this enormous, big, huge privilege to be with her and to grow with all her knowledge and kindness and all the other meetings that I had just because of her, like you all. And so this is really wonderful for me. So thank you.
Pleasure. If you want to send me those other ones, I'm happy to share it later, you know, as you take time, because we have time. But thanks, Cassiana. Okay. Anyone else want to share before we move to our next part? Soledad?
I make my best with the English. I want to share a personal memory. When my third daughter was born, I stopped working for 2 years. And then when I had to go back to work, I was really scared. I feel I can't, I wasn't ready. It was hard, and I started reading for the second time, Hidden Treasure. And I read it and said, yes, I can do this. I can do this. But I go for the 2 first months with the book in my purse. And it was like, I felt that she was there for me. And then when I had this chance of meeting her online, it was amazing. I have the chance to ask her about a patient in one of the trainings. And I couldn't believe it that she really was there for me. You know, I have this feeling sometimes when I have a patient that worries me, or I don't know, I'm not sure I can do some stuff in the office, I take the book with me. It was like she's there with her words and helps me. So it's a bit weird, but it's what I felt about her. That when I need her, she's there for me.
My goodness. Thank you for sharing that. It's lovely. Cassiana?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I got it.
You got it? Great.
Yeah. So I'm going to share this. Can you see it?
Not yet, but I bet we will. It says started screen sharing, so maybe it'll come soon. There it is.
Okay, so here is when I first met Violet. I was very young too. It was in São Paulo, 1994. And and let me see here. How can I do this? Here is in Santa Barbara when I was attending the training program. And I just love this. I love this picture because she was playing like she didn't miss the opportunity to play, to make something really light every time. And here this is I think that you never saw this. This is Violet Centracine. I once went to her office to visit her, just to visit, and we went to the movies and dinner, and I asked her, why don't you do a Centracine and let's see what happened. And this is Violet Oaklander Centracine. And I have a video of this that I have to find a way to share with you. When she was making her Centracine, it was very, it is a very wonderful memory that I have being with her. Okay. So, and then, actually, this is my view in my room. And here is when I planted the tree, it was just small like this. And
Oh, you
now,
have to, Cassiano, you have to advance to the next picture, and then so we can see the tree. There it is.
okay, so I was planting the tree here, and I just my tie break is out there, and here it was by this size, and now you see that one. Oops, and now it is the violet's tree right now. It's very full of flowers and very colorful. And well, that's it. Thank you.
I'm so glad you found those.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. Denise?
Hi, everybody. I haven't spoken this morning. My voice is a little raspy. I'm Denise, and I'm in Los Angeles, and I have two things, excuse me. I was a creative arts specialist and a teaching artist for the Music Center and in drama and movement and dance. And then later in life, I decided to become a therapist. And I was looking for a theory that would, something that would help me bridge between the creative arts and therapy. And finding Violet's work helped me have that. I mean, it completely helped me have that. I could bridge for me all of my passions, and also I could justify why was I doing movement? Why was I doing creative arts with therapy? And because I knew as a creative arts specialist that what I was doing was therapeutic, but I couldn't call it therapy. But then I knew it was therapy. So this allowed me to do that. The second memory I have is at the celebration of life for Violet. I mean, I was fortunate to have met and been supervised by Violet in person. But at the celebration of life, I met her great-granddaughter who decided that it was very hot, and we all had water bottles, and she wanted to spray water into my hair. um, she was asked me if that was okay. She was very respectful, and she honored my boundaries before she then drenched my hair. She was about 5, and I don't know how old Mahatma and Martha's granddaughter is. But it was like this moment where I felt like Violet was coming through, because this child's spirit was so free and yet honoring at the same time. And so I was just so present with this girl who was progeny of Violet in this celebration of life. And it was truly a celebratory moment. And I wanted to just share that.
So I didn't really have a plan of what to talk about today, but as everyone's been sharing, I've been thinking about this Violet as mother and supporter and kind of innovator, and someone who really devoted her everything to the people she loved and to her work. And maybe a little something different to share too is I live in Santa Barbara and Violet lived here for quite a long time. And in the early days of my career, I moved here and had already known of Violet's work. And we met shortly after I arrived here. This was in 1999. And in addition to all the professional support and doing her trainings and now training many people in her model, when I think of her, it's more like a friend and a neighbor. And the memories that are strongest for me are just being in my house and being with my daughter. And many of you who spent a lot of time with Violet, you know, she had her own style of dress and jewelry and kind of like a lot of folk art was, you know, if you were in her office or her condo or in the ADU that Mahatma talked about, there's just filled with stuff, like really cool stuff, and from all over the world, and many, many gifts. I mean, she would keep any gift from, you know, we all would give her gifts, and all her students and people who sponsored her trainings, and it was just filled with all this cool stuff. And of course, my daughter was born in 2005, which was the same year that we started the Violet Solomon Oaklander Foundation. And she would love to go to Violet's, and Violet always had tons of fun things for her to fool around with. And I feel really lucky that Mahatma and Martha and Violet's daughter Sarah asked me when Violet passed away if there was anything I wanted, and you know, it was a little overwhelming offer because there was just so much. And so I asked for a piece of jewelry, you know, just something, and they gave me this ring that Violet wore every day that I knew her. Like, it was just like part of her, and it's such a support for me to just have this memory of something very physical, like, you know, her hands, and I always wear it to work and at trainings, and it's just a very personal memory and support, and I just really appreciate having all those years with her. So I still miss her a lot, clearly.